like to call today's Planning Commission meeting to order. All members are present, so we have established quorum. Unfortunately, our city planner will not be joining us today, as he noted at the last meeting. If there is anyone that is in the audience today that is planning to speak during today's commission meeting, I do have to administer an oath, and all you have to do is say, "I do," after I administer it. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth to this commission to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. First off, disposition of last meeting's minutes. They are attached to your agenda if you had not had a chance to review them prior to this meeting.
I was only present for a portion of the meeting, so I'm not sure how I can vote.
You can abstain from voting.
Okay. But on the second page of minutes, where it says Cleveland Browns curtains, I believe they were talking about flags. No, it was
I was
curtains?
talking about curtains.
Okay.
Yeah. Sort of sports paraphernalia that fell inside the house. So. Any other changes or corrections? Remember at the last meeting, the sign ordinance recommendations were made by our commission to pass 4-0. RJ had to abstain, as well as we discussed the request for rezoning in lower east side or northeast State Street. And we'll be discussing that item again today.
Okay, and we will pass recommendations for planning development, city council, hopefully next Monday, I think, on the sign ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, I move we
Tuesday.
accept the minutes.
I will,
What?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
okay. Tuesday city council meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
Columbus
Committee.
Day.
Okay. Oh, because,
Gotta remember that.
all right, I will second that motion. Any further discussion about the minutes? Good. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes as recorded?
Aye.
By John and Paulo, correct?
Yeah.
You get, so,
I'm doing minutes here too. So
I'll
Abstain.
Abstain because of the one reference in the sign, the voting.
You know.
I do that. Okay.
You didn't know.
Then aye.
Your silence has been broken. All right. And are you going to abstain, or are you fine?
I am abstaining, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, move on to our next item of cases. There are no cases this week. Having a case in a little time. The next item is communications. We do have the rezoning request on the table once more for that northeast section of State Street, or East State Street, I should say. When I'm going to enter another map onto this discussion before we get really underway, and that's the sort of grayscale one you have. I did a color small version up there as well. On the one that's sitting at the table, the sort of salmon colored, if the one that you have in front of you, the darker shade of gray, I'm proposing, based on the request from the citizens and sort of my understanding of the area, it seems like there's not a big push to see much more than single-family development in that area. There are only a small handful of duplexes that are currently in that zone. So I was suggesting the dark gray area here on this the long. Yeah. Okay.
This is different than what is
Yes.
It
the
is.
planner
It
has
is. It's not. If you look at the proposal that was made by the citizens group, they're extending R1 down, and then they have a sort of a small little core, this yellow shade, that's the R2. And
So they're
then what
extending, yeah.
almost looks like it's not shaded, but has that light, very sort of tan shade is the B3. I'm suggesting that the B3 go all the way along East State Street at the edge of that neighborhood.
Okay, where you're talking about the difference here is that they've taken out Utah. Their recommendation was take Utah down to
Yeah, you can use that.
R1, as well as Strathmore, all the way to East State Street. Your recommendation is not to do that, if I'm reading.
No, exactly. Right now, currently, there are a number of residences over on Strathmore and Utah as well, right up against the sort of on-ramp or off-ramp at East State Street. I find that to not be the most ideal place for residences in the future.
This is what the recommendation is. This is what Nicholas's recommendation is. So he's actually extending the B3 into Strathmore and Utah. And he's talking about eliminating the B2 entirely.
Well,
I mean, the R2 entirely.
My understanding from, and we'll let everyone speak for themselves once we get to it, but no, I'm not. You guys are fine. But I don't want to speak too much for what the citizens group was wanting and what I'm sort of seeing for the area. I don't want to get those two sort of mixed up in a sense. But from what I understanding is when the map was made, it was sort of looking at what is there now. How can we preserve what is there now? So the R2 area, from what I understood, was just kind of what they saw as currently a use that is permitted in an R2 zone and wouldn't be permitted in an R1. So how I looked at it is like, I just, all these, the existing uses would be able to be grandfathered in every zoning. This is just impacting future development. So if the owners of the properties on Strathmore and Utah that are right up against East State Street were to choose to, they always want to live there, then it's fine, or you could sell the house, it's fine. It's just if the use were to change, it would have to be according to a B3, what the use is permitted in the B3. So how the B3 is defined, all the lots that face East State Street in this proposal would be B3s.
This dark shaded area.
All the dark shaded B3.
Or the lavender, whatever is over there.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I clarify? So you're proposing to eliminate all of the R2 and just have an R1, but right up against the existing businesses?
So there's no buffer.
So there's no buffer?
R2 is not you should never consider it a zone.
And as well, you can see that Utah and Strathmore ceased to be an R2 and turn into according to the difference between his map and the current,
Yeah.
Strathmore and Utah, the front lots would turn into a B3, it looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Strathmore and
Right
Utah
there we are.
lots
Right
were,
there.
because they
Oh.
have lived there for a long time, they made sure when they built on Strathmore that business can't go down there at all.
It is not allowed at this, it is not allowed at this point in time.
No.
Nicholas' recommendation is that it would be shifted back.
That
I'm
would,
reading it correctly.
yeah, that pretty much there would be a relatively hard line that separates the residential from the business. Would be what is being proposed here. And then there would be a little bit more of B3 extending into the neighborhood at Grand Park and what's the other road there?
Behind Donwood there.
It's not marked here too, Grant.
Grand Park and what towns?
Is it Eden that's
Yeah.
continuing? Yeah.
Eden.
Grand Park and Eden.
Yeah.
Okay.
At Eden, and that's because this sort of dual intersection that's right there, it
Those
feels
are
like
empty lots right now. anyway.
Exactly.
And you're proposing that those be B3.
B3, where there is actually more, it wouldn't be taking any residences, it's mostly, auto dealerships, car washes, and
This allows duplex in here.
duplexes are permitted in the B3 as well. And B3 is, you could look at it, everything that's permitted in the R2 zone.
Only if they were elevated. Could not have first floor residential in the
Right.
B3.
I thought about, when I did look at the B3 and that, from that standpoint of like, should this be, we're almost missing the zone, and I don't know if B2 makes more sense, or something that allows for a store.
This is already business here.
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Extend it down.
One is, fellow commissioners, I do have a family member who has interest in a property in this zone. Whether or not I'm able to participate in the discussion, I'd like to participate in the discussion, but that would be affected by these changes. And then a question is, these ones on Strathmore that you're putting are already single-family homes?
Yeah.
But you would make it a B3 zone?
I would, again, I'm looking at this more of, whether it's not B3, if future development. what makes the most sense for along East State Street there?
I know fast food places has tried to purchase it before, but they couldn't on Strathmore and Utah.
Right.
And you're proposing they can in your future, way you want it.
Yeah, and the other item, and this is the sort of where we haven't ventured into this part in the zoning yet, is to start to outline where parking can occur. So in this sort of proposal, parking would have to be to the north side of the lot. So that East State Street wouldn't be lined with parking like it is right now currently on the south side. We would actually want storefronts up along East State Street. And then, again, a buffer between, maybe we could call this one a buffer, is the parking lots could be to the rear of the, what would be considered the East State Street property.
Can I speak to?
Yeah, again, you just have to go to microphone, either at the table or the podium.
I think the podium's better.
I'm Jeff Dill, I live at 31 Graham. So the new proposal that we've just seen for the first time today, I like the part where the R1 comes all the way down to encompass homes that are already single-family residences
Right.
anyway. The part I don't like is extending the business zone toward Strathmore and Utah. And if you look at the intersection to turn left on the Strathmore, that's sort of a mess anyway with those posts there. And opening that up for business would make it even worse than it already is now. I mean, as it is, when I go home to Graham, I can't turn left on Graham. I've got to turn left on Strathmore. And
That's what.
And that whole neighborhood is already single-family homes, and it just appears to make no sense to rezone that for business. I don't understand the rationale for that.
Makes sense.
I guess, looking at it from a planning standpoint, you're right up against a freeway, a busy business route. It's a terrible spot for residences currently. It may have been at one point in time, but it doesn't work right now.
How are you going to turn in there if you have businesses there with, right now you
Yeah,
have to go down a few
Yeah, you
streets
would.
and turn.
Yeah, how are you going to fix
How
that
are you gonna
traffic
fix that?
problem? And the fact is, single-family residences are already there anyway, and the people that bought them apparently don't have a problem with living there.
Right.
I do believe one just went up for sheriff's sale,
Yeah, I know another
a
one's
month
on
ago?
sale
So
right
it was
now.
obviously not being maintained or sold or kept or something.
And you have the
I could be
other.
wrong with that, I thought I saw one in the paper.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, also there's a number of empty sort of lots right up against East State Street here that's just sort of grass next to the sort of Napa Auto Parts.
Yeah, but that's already zoned for business, isn't it?
Not all the way back.
No,
no,
yeah.
And it is owned all by the same person, too.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, again, I'm not saying, and those residents don't have to, you could sell it as reds. This doesn't say you have to do, the people have to sell, the next time they sell, have to sell to a commercial developer. You can continue to sell, you could continue to remain a residence for as long as it's viable.
Yeah, I guess I would just say that without some major change of the traffic patterns, it would be
Oh, absolutely, East State
ridiculous to put
Street
a
needs a
business
major
there.
change of traffic.
And that would seem like a much larger scope of rezoning than what we're talking about here.
yeah, you are correct, that is all
Not there,
zoned D already, right there.
That one
Okay.
is.
This side's going to
Well,
change.
we do,
And the other thing, I'm also looking at for future, there was talk of a time of an additional fire department. This is an ideal location, the sort of Athens County Children's Services right up against East State Street. You're right. Great access to on-ramps and to get onto 33. That deal may take 10 years to occur, may never occur, but this is just purely being proposed
Yeah.
for future development. Just whatever all rezoning should look at. It's not what is the immediate the gain, but what's the long-term potential. And East State Street, it works great for vehicles. It can be improved, as you're stating. Just even for residents is accessing. Why should a resident of that street have to drive all the way down the road to get to their house when they pass it.
I guess my contention would be if you're talking about long-term plans, you should go back to the comprehensive plan, which says that this entire neighborhood should encourage low-density, owner-occupied, single-family homes.
And that's what this does.
And again, I actually like all of it except for that part.
Right. You see, you're just saying...
Strathmore,
Yeah.
Utah.
I do want to say, there's some long-term planning for the intersections that we're doing with ODOT, and they're looking a couple years out, 6 years or what have you, to look at that whole exchange there from East State Street, Stimson, and how that weaving is. So some things may indeed change based on that in the future.
And I guess I would advocate crossing that bridge when you come to it.
I'd like, well, I'm just thinking again, planning in
Right.
terms of the incorporation of it. But I do wonder about, I hear you, there's existing single-family homes there now. When you change it to a B3, how does that change property values? And also where the conversation is with current property owners who have something that's in the existing B, if that's going all the way down to R1.
Yeah, I would think at a minimum, you should talk to all of those people that would be affected by having their property rezoned.
That includes the R2s, though.
Yeah, all those
I
are
understand
too.
that as well, yeah.
Yes.
And which is why we propose leaving the R2s zoned as R2s, because
Not that, no, you were
They're already that
proposing. Right now, what we're seeing is the R1's being extended into the R2.
well, the zone is being extended, but our proposal was only to rezone single-family residences that are already single-family residences and just recognize that they are R1, even though it was zoned for R2.
A single-family residence can be in a B3 as well.
But
But there are complications.
it's non-conforming.
It's non-conforming, and yeah, I understand you can grandfather them in as non-conforming, but that doesn't mean it's the wise thing to do.
I'm kind of concerned with the people that live there on Utah and Strathmore, because they've been told one thing and then you just change it, like you did down the street from Hungary.
Who has told them one thing?
Pardon?
Who has told them one thing?
I'm sorry.
I'm confused by the question.
Aren't you concerned about the people on Utah and Strathmore, because they've been there, some of them, for years, and then you change that to business there? Now, I just...
Well, this is not-
I have more trouble with other neighbors there.
Right. First of all, we've seen as a commission.
Yeah.
One.
And I'm not speaking, this is a proposal I'm putting from the commission as well. This isn't the commission's sort of proposal by any means.
Two, the process would be, if we go the full route, would be a public hearing at this level, although it's not required for the planning commission to have one. I would recommend we do have one.
Yeah, we would.
It would have a vote on this side. It would also then go to the council with a public hearing, committee, and 3 readings. So this is not set in stone. This is a proposal that Nicholas has put in front of us. Parts of it you like, parts of it you don't like.
Right, yeah, I mean, this is a first
I would
pass.
advocate more thought and the process that you're talking about.
Yes, and as well as your proposal, too. There's a shift of the line for both B3 owners as well as R2 owners will lose their grandfathership or their potential. And that's it we have to look at. Say, there may be somebody in that zone you just shifted over who's thinking, I could turn this into a duplex someday, in my investment, so to speak. So there are things that have to be looked at here. I say there are going to be changes because I know ODOT is looking at that intersection. That intersection they see as a problematic intersection, all the way from Stimson coming out of Stimson, trying to merge, going onto East State off of 50 and 33 intersection. How fast they move is another matter entirely.
It's been assigned a project number, which means...
Yeah, it's moving, I guess.
That it is moving. So yours, again, eliminates any R2,
Yeah.
Yes,
and in your proposal had a
sliver of it.
a section of R2 remaining.
Yeah, we basically tried to, anything that's already
Existing.
a duplex, we kept it zoned as R2.
just for interest's sake, I'm going to put the map down here from 1986. You'll have to excuse the tatted position of it because it was on my wall for some 96. It's from 86. And I'll point out that the R2s in the west side as well as Morris have disappeared for the most part. And that's it. We've had a total shrinkage of R2s over time. For the very same reasons you're talking about, density issues. I wonder if we could eliminate almost all of it if we keep going this route. I think the only parts of R2 right now that exist on the west side is, I think, between Walker, some parts of Washington,
Right.
and going down towards Court Street where it ends up to be another zone entirely.
Well, I mean, I think the problem with the R2 is that, and Paul touched on this, often it's used as a buffer.
Yes.
And frankly, most people living in an R1 choose to live in an R1 for its single-family residential quality in and of itself. So anytime you get somebody within, 3 or 4 parcels from an R2 and development is going on there, they don't like, it just, people move away. The R1 next to, people don't like to live there, and it changes the quality of the R1 neighborhood immediately next to that R2. So I don't see this as a neighborhood where R2 really works out well. And, I'd like to create a much stronger business development along this part of East State Street. You're coming right off the freeway. It's easy access to from the south side, from the rest of the east side, that this could actually be built up into a real commercial district and not just a vehicular-oriented one, because you have such a strong neighborhood adjacent it.
The issue, again, is what Mr. Gill points out is the difficulty, right now, how it is set up. If I wanted to go to a business in this present R1 zone in Strathmore, Utah, I would essentially have to drive down East State Street, make a U-turn somehow, or cut through a neighborhood to get to that business.
I would hope you're turning at a light.
Well, that's right. Well, right now you can't, because we have the bollards up, and every once in a while we lose one because somebody makes a sharp turn.
Which is what happened right now.
Yes. And the intensity of business on the CVS side it's pretty much a mess, I guess.
I agree with you.
What?
I agree with you. You're taking business traffic through the neighborhood to get to what's on the street level.
But realize that the Plan Commission's duty is to look in the future and where this will go. I'm not convinced it's got to move that quickly towards it. I'm not sure. This is all new to me as of, 20 minutes ago?
Right.
28 minutes ago. I also want to let you know that one of the discussions in terms of R1s, R2s, and R3s, that we had a public hearing for a planned unit development on Hickory Street, which is behind C&E on Richland. One of the discussions, of course, that came through from the council side of it is that they want us to review the planned unit development section of subdivisions. Technically, a planned unit development, which can be any size, I mean, we're talking about one house, 2 houses, apartment complex, can be dropped into any R zone, R1, R2, R3. It's written in the law that way. I know council right now is saying we have to look at that, and it's because it's in subdivision regs. We, as Planning Commission, don't have to look at it, but we should look at that, what that means. In other words, your zoning of an R1 all the way down to the B3 is protected for single-family houses until somebody comes along with a planned unit development and says, I want to put a planned unit development there. Now, we can deny it.
Right. But not with...
I think they want to see more extra hoops put in, hurdles to jump before we would actually drop one in an R1 zone.
Right.
That's what council is requesting. So I'm letting you know that, this change is not a sacred change, so to speak. These things can actually, blend in or something can happen. If we're talking about a B3, though, what you're talking about with the elimination of the R2, you're talking about trying to modify the B3 zone for this particular area to have shops in front, parking in back, which would mean you have to have a condition built into the B3s. Am I reading that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's another wrinkle that we don't have.
Parking in back means parking going through the neighborhood to get there.
Well, he's thinking in terms of a buffer. You're thinking in terms of traffic, yes. See that? Yes, you're right.
I'm thinking in terms of what it looks like. We have the parking lots, So.
Parking lots can be nice.
I would suggest we probably need to go through and review everything that's on East State Street corridor in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And use that as the, the magnifying glass, the lens to look at what you propose, what the residents have proposed. I've looked at some of it, but, it is a tome that requires a little bit of more study, and I can't say I read it every night. Okay? I find this intriguing, especially what you're doing is you're looking farther ahead when these residential areas do not fit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't want to leave it where we get, 15 years down the road, you got development here in the county area, you got whatever's going on with the highway and the new intersection, you got this development here, that we've left basically parcels that people won't be able to sell, that it would just be demolished, raised lots.
I am unclear of what's going on with Job and Family Services. I know they had...
It's children's services.
Children's services. I know that a couple of years ago they were talking about expansion and requested an access to East State Street. I know that was not given to them. I know they're also outside the city limits, so I'm not sure. Again, we're talking about a large parcel there that will affect what happens to the rest of it. I know there was a dialogue at one time trying to get an exit ramp coming off that side, of course, going right through their block property, but...
Actually, there is enough room to do that, and I think that is one of the options ODOT is looking at.
They'd have to acquire it and change it, though. That would make a better traffic pattern there.
Right.
So, again, there's a lot of things in play here. How immediate, what we want to change in its immediacy or long-term.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just putting this out there as another sort of food for thought in the proposal, how we look at it. I think, like the mayor said, we're taking a closer look at zooming in on the comprehensive plan PDF and trying to determine at the time what was sort of proposed for that area, if it even can get that detailed.
Okay. A couple things. One is I hesitate to even discuss it further without my city planner on board or even here, unless you emailed it to him somehow in his vacation, okay?
I think that's why Mr. Lowe wanted to see this come forward today, is because I think you guys need to make a recommendation onto the request that was given. Reading through the code, that within 60 days, either let me get this right here, a recommended amendment be granted as requested, or it may be recommended a modification of the amendment as requested, or it may recommend that the amendment be denied. And the question at hand that we've looked into is the applicants are requesting a change in the B3 zone, which none of them are residents of the B3. So the request as submitted cannot go forward as it's submitted right now. So what we need to do is, and it does have to go to public hearing as well.
Right, we would most likely have to deny the request and then...
I don't know if it's
continue to
denied
make
because the commission itself is allowed to initiate the conversation too, which is what you're doing.
Right.
The timing is moot based on that, but the planning commission has indeed said that we're going to look at this. and
Right,
do-
but I think
I think further study is acceptable to us.
Okay, I think that's what he was
We're not
saying.
trying to
the
force
60
a
days,
decision today.
Okay.
Doesn't apply.
Okay, doesn't apply. So-
Okay?
Not that we want to take a long time, you want to see movement.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we could just make a park or something, so we carry out our grain down there. The lady will be willing to sell it.
We do need East Side Community Gardens.
Well, we do have the sales park up there, I mean, I know.
No, that's not community garden.
No.
No, that's a good spot for it there. No one else will develop there.
Again, I may not be able to vote, but, I think it's a lovely neighborhood and lots of walking and children and strollers and bicycles and so.
And I've been through it, and I understand the charm of the neighborhood, and looking at the changes you're talking about between what's present and shrinking it down to the R1 to the R2. It's not a lot of area we're talking about. It's a very small, I cruised around there.
No, that's what,
Checking it out. And it's,
can walk it in all of, I think, 30, 40 minutes, it seemed like it took me to go just down each street from Jacobs there. I mean,
not
it
if
is...
you're knocking on doors, but...
No, you have a difference. I wear a mustache.
I'm coming at you
when I do. But I mean, I found it was sort of impressive. I mean, I probably was maybe a third of the way down from East Straight, or I guess I should say up, going north. but before Jacobs there, and I mean, even that far in,
Way to change
it really does change it, and you don't hear the sound of East State Street like I thought you would, even being that close in. So that's why, again, I'm proposing keeping the B3 close to East State Street. I think you need that sort of edge there. And I think you could create an ideal sort of commercial development here where you do have this sort of, the spot where the grid actually comes across in both places for that Grant Park and Eden. That it can make something that, maybe you could put offices in there. I mean, it's something where you have the community center, you have shopping close, and it seems like it could be sort of an effective spot for the city to look at to develop. And I mean, I think we also need to be observant during this is that, people are going to be buying vehicles for a long time, but, we don't know how long, Larry Shea's spot is going to sit undeveloped. And I think I'm trying to look for a way that we can encourage redevelopment in the area, but maybe focusing it and not having it as spread out. And
Again,
your
look at the
proposal is sort of doing the
comprehensive
same.
plan and what the comprehensive plan recommends for the neighborhood.
But that's it, he's also talking about the commercial part of that comprehensive plan.
Well, yeah, we aren't proposing that any of the commercial part be eliminated.
Right.
Well, he's proposing an extension of it.
Yeah, and that's what I would object to.
Eventually, if we do have a public hearing, I think we should consider having a public hearing at the community center since it's
Yeah,
slowed
Makes
down.
sense.
Yeah.
Worst case to worst, we'll have a tag team race across the street and say how well we do at Charles. And,
Right.
just because I know there's issues with pedestrian issues on that.
All right, we'll take a closer look at the Strathmore, Utah area especially. Go ahead, Archie.
No, I was just going to say, I think what you're proposing, has some merit in there. I think that the process has come up a little bit hasty because there is so much to consider within this strip.
And we're certainly agreeable to
Right.
taking time to deliberate.
Right.
That's-
My only concern, and as far as removing the R2, is with the duplexes, for instance, you're really offering an alternative form of living that some people can't afford, owner-occupied homes, and at the same time, they don't want to live on Franklin or Grover. So, if we're taking that away from people, then we're taking away, if you're looking up at the map there, you're really trying to eliminate, I think, maybe a certain economic group that can afford, say, a duplex, which in a duplex, in most instances that I'm aware of, is a much more managed form. Some people own the duplexes and live in as well. So, what you're proposing has, I think, merit in there. I think what Nicholas is also proposing with the idea of allowing business a little more breathing room in there as times change bears some discussion as well. So, what I'd like to do is have a little more time to talk with everybody and the
Sure.
community and
I
see how
think
we
that
can
makes
work there.
sense.
Yeah.
I will point out, where I live was R2. If you look at that map down there, it was changed over for the very reason of trying to maintain neighborhoods. Two of my adjacent neighbors have duplexes, grandfathered in. They both live there. They rent out the bottom to augment their mortgage payments. As a result, you don't have kick-ass parties because the landlord lives above you, or below you. If you look at the map, as you pointed out, there's very little yellow left there.
I mean, it's,
Very little. So, what we're doing is we're going to make an extinct zone as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem that there is with R2, and maybe it's just how we put it onto the map, is it's confined to sort of one area, and what it seems like, especially this sort of, the proposal you guys have of just doing this, it just sort of forces all the duplexes right next to each other, and I think it's sort of, that's not exactly what you're looking
But
for.
they're sort of already there anyway.
I understand that,
We're
but-
not forcing anything to change, or we're not proposing to force anything to change.
All you're doing is not saying they're not going to be integrated in the
Right,
neighborhood.
we're recognizing what already exists.
Right, no, I understand, and I think that was, to be honest, actually a very good approach to take. But all I'm trying to say is that it means you're never going to have a duplex, a single-family house, another single-family, another duplex. When you sort of confine it like this, it sort of says all duplexes right here. And they're not, never then integrated in the neighborhood, and then the people that are looking for, I'd like to live in this neighborhood, but I can't
You would
afford
never
it.
have that anyway unless you go in and start tearing down things that are already there.
This neighborhood would be difficult to do, based
Yeah,
on, they're
and that's
mostly
my-
ranch
yeah, that's
houses.
my point.
Right. I mean, yeah, the east side, it might work better where you have bigger houses, is you could easily probably split a top to a bottom as a duplex or down the middle. Here you don't. So what's happening with the R2s here, they don't look like, the duplexes don't look like the single-family houses in this neighborhood.
They usually two-story.
Because they're usually two-story, whereas the houses in this neighborhood are mostly ranch. So I just don't see how the duplex sort of belongs in this neighborhood of ranch houses, is my main issue.
Keep in
Well,
mind,
I see that you're, if I'm hearing you correctly, I appreciate that you're trying to like, kind of clean things up as far as have,
Right.
instead of stacking zones on top of one another.
Right.
But at the same time, as I said, there's, I can't speak with experience on it, but how many people who are employed out on the East State area who would prefer to rent, who would prefer not to, again, live in necessarily student zones. And again, a lot of the duplexes, are most of the duplexes owner occupied, as well?
I think they're not. They're
It's
mostly
all
rental.
rental?
We could still have rentals in R1.
Some of the smaller, single-family homes are also rentals. I think the majority of them are owner-occupied, but I think the number is like 70% of the single families are owner-occupied, and 30% are rentals.
That was from your Exhibit A.
Yeah,
question.
and don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but that's approximate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as like grad students and young families, my daughter lived on Avon for a few years, and when she was a grad student and her husband was a med student, and they bought a small single-family house on Avon, and they sold it to another grad student when they left. So that kind of thing happens with the single-family homes, not just with duplexes.
Nicholas, I was going to add, keep in mind that a ranch could be considered a duplex as well if the basement is finished accordingly and has proper egress and parking and so on and so forth.
Actually, that's one of my next-door neighbors, has
Right.
a basement.
Duplexes could be done to fit into the neighborhood. I'm just saying the ones that are existing right now don't fit into the neighborhood that well.
That may be-
Looking at it from an aesthetic standpoint, and again, this is really not the planning commission's purvey, so I really can't pass that sort of judgment. But one can tell just by, the height of them, it's not matching up with what is neighbors, so that's the side, that shouldn't be in the minutes, okay?
If anything, I'd like to make a motion that we study this some more, get Paul, when Paul gets back from his
Absolutely.
vacation. If possible, can you shoot this electronically to us so we can peruse it at our leisure, I assume it's a PDF or something?
Yeah, I can do that.
So I can see the colors.
I understand.
I know, it's tough to print colors out, but
I will second that motion to table discussion until another time.
it will come up quickly, I'm sure.
It will, yeah. I don't want to necessarily say it's going to be on the agenda next week till we take a look at what cases may be coming up for
And thank you. That's
We are inspired by you spearheading this sort of effort. It's always wonderful to see citizens taking a very active stance with their neighborhood in a sort of, I don't want to say progressive as in the political sense, but a proactive way.
Okay, thank you.
We have a vote?
Yeah, if I second it, so that was my vote. All those in favor of tabling discussion?
Well, I have one more thing. Are you aware there's a FINA meeting coming up? Far East Neighborhood Association?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got an invite to it, that's why I was asking if you are aware of it. And that would be this would probably be good information for them to discuss.
Right.
And it is
Do you know when?
Thursday,
It's 13th, isn't
November
it?
13th,
Community Center, I believe,
7 p.m.
7 o'clock. Okay.
That's just for the east state, the flood area, or the whole?
This is FINA, the Far East
Oh,
Side
FEMA,
Neighborhood
not
Association.
FEMA, they say.
Not
Maybe-
FEMA.
No, not the flood one. Jeez, really?
Far
We settled that.
East Side Neighborhood Association,
Okay.
okay? Like FINA. Another great acronym.
Okay, no.
No?
All right, all those in favor, again, of tabling discussion until future notice?
Do I have to abstain?
Yeah, I don't see how this is, I mean, it's any sort of rezoning. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't see how that would be
Did you abstain?
applicable.
If I'm allowed to vote, I'm voting.
It's really up to your own conscience, really.
Yeah, I don't see any
I don't
particular
know
issue.
why a vote on a tabling
If
till
ODOT
further study would be.
ODOT wanted
I'll
that
get fired.
strip for somebody to put an on-ramp.
Yes, they
something
did.
like that. Would that have to be rezoned officially, or just left as is, and they just,
ODOT would just probably take it over to the state, and it'd all be over with.
just a big eminent domain thing?
It's not like they follow floodplain regulations anyway. So, excuse me. Does your microphone work? Because you don't have a...
It's just no padding itself.
Thank you for tapping to everybody.
Okay, there are no other communications on our agenda. Is any other item wish to add? I'm going to move about on the agenda real briefly here, John. Let's go to the opportunity for citizens to speak about items not covered on the agenda while we do have an active audience. Any other item you wish to discuss or bring up? Okay, thank you. All right, John, we'll get back in order here. Do you have any report from us?
Yes, bear with me here. or something.
Okay. Oh, so you're studying your minutes.
As you know, the wireless communications has been tabled until Paul got back next week, but I think all of you received an email from him in
Yeah.
regards to some House bill stuff that's being looked at right now, so I just wanted to let you know that, and maybe you can review that before the next meeting. So that would be from Paul's aspect of things.
Okay.
And then from my side, all I needed to mention was that the BZA meeting for next week has been moved to Wednesday, October 12th, due to the observance of Columbus Day on October 10th. And then city council meeting, I believe, is being moved to Tuesday night, October
It's
12th.
Tuesday night, 7 o'clock.
We have only 2 cases now, and I can possibly drop to 1, because we've only got 4 members, so a lot of the applicants have requested to wait until the following month. And that would be 25 Campbell Street. Art Ostrecker, the owner of Jackie O's, is requesting to move into the old cheese factory, field glass building out on Stimson, to convert it into a bottling works for his business. And the variance is for, let's see, it's within 100 feet of an R zone, and that's why he has to go. He's like 70 feet away, so he needs a variance to have a bottling work within 100 feet of a residential zone. The other application would be...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You say it was 75 feet or 25?
About 70
Okay.
is about what we're scaling off.
I mean,
Yeah.
that has an M designation.
Part of well, it's a B3 and M. The property is actually split, but the building sits on the B3 part. So it is a permissible use, but it has to be within, or it has to be greater than 100 feet from a residential zone. So the old railroad right-of-way is there, separating the two, but the zoning actually measuring to the center of that's what we decided to do, since it's really unclear that come out at 70 feet, and so hence he's within 100 feet and has to go to the BZA.
So you're centering on his parcel or on the
Centering on the railroad right-of-way, on
Oh, I
for
see.
the,
To the,
the code states that you center, where there's a split in the line, you center on a street or a right-of-way or whatever for the zoning, and that's what we're doing.
okay, I see.
So, and the other application is at 125 Franklin for a rental. They were requesting at this time, and it's subject to change, we're actually meeting with them tomorrow, for 3 tenants with 1 officer or 1 parking space.
So parking there.
Parking is the issue on that. We are going to go look at it tomorrow. I think they're willing to drop the rental down to 2 people, and we'll see if they can get 2 parking spaces in, but that's got to be measured, and we'll see where it goes from there. And then 3 other cases were continued to next month because of the lack of a full board this time.
Okay.
So,
They, council reappointed Joan Kronansky and Lisa Carson as regular and alternate. That was Monday night. So this would be, I think, the 2nd term for each, or maybe 3rd term for Kronansky.
okay. And you want the ones for next month?
No,
Okay.
you can order.
And that is all I have.
Okay.
Things change. Okay, any questions for Director of Development, Code Enforcement? Okay. Moving ahead, announcements and other business. Our next meeting is scheduled for regular time on Wednesdays, first and third Wednesday of the month. It's October 19th at noon in the same premises we're in here today at the city building. Any other announcements? No? No town halls?
No, but Monday is Columbus Day, and the City Hall and other related city buildings will be closed.
But no delay on trash.
No delay on trash.
Okay.
Community Center, I think, is open regular hours, but you should all check.
All right, community center will be open. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'm now adjourn today's meeting.
Okay.